Well, hello. It's been a while since I posted a video, and I wanted to give an update. As you can tell by the thumbnail, this is mostly about Europe, but there's some other updates in there as well. I got back from Europe in at the end of May. So when I first got back, I was pretty sick. I had a bad cough and I had some hip pain. So I went to urgent care and they did a chest x-ray and a hip x-ray. Both were negative, so she gave me some medicine to help get my cough to go away. And then with the results of the x-ray being negative on my hip, I was kind of in a holding pattern. So they ordered an MRI, but the MRI was rejected because there wasn't enough medical information. They sent it to my doctor, and the doctor did not respond to the request for more information. And I didn't know any of this. So I did go to the doctor again as a follow-up for the cough, and that was when she ordered the MRI. And she also changed my blood pressure medication because my blood pressure was pretty high, and ordered me some injectable B12 and the ortho consult referral. And so the blood pressure medicine was not a good fit for me. It made me pass out almost anytime I was up moving around. And so I called to get that straightened out. And then the pharmacy called me and said they couldn't do the formulary for the B12. They sent a message to her. The ortho doc called me and said, "Have you had your MRI yet?" They didn't want to see me until the MRI was done. So I called and left a message 3 times. And then I went on the portal and put a message on there. And then finally I went up to the office. This was over a month's time. This was the month of June. And I went up there, and she wasn't there that day. She was out, I assuming on vacation. And the office manager told me that she had not retrieved any of her messages at all, and apologized profusely and said that she would address it when she got back and see, what can be done. Anyway, so the following Tuesday, no, it was Wednesday. The following Wednesday, I got a call from the doctor. She never addressed the fact that she didn't return any of my messages, that she didn't return the messages that were sent to her from the pharmacy or the ortho doctor either, and didn't apologize, nothing. But anyway, so we talked about what's going on. And then when I got off that phone call, I decided that I was probably going to change doctors if things didn't move a little quicker. So what happened was after I talked to her, I called the insurance company, and they told me that when the MRI was rejected, they needed more information. And they sent the rejection to her office via a secure fax. And by law, they had 5 days to to give them more information in order to approve the MRI. And it was never done. She didn't respond to that either. So, and they told me that there was nothing I could do, that it all had to be done by the doctor. So even if I had known all this beforehand, I couldn't personally have appealed the decision. So at that point, I decided to go ahead and change doctors. And so I've been waiting all this time for something to happen. I did get my meds changed around a little bit, and I did get the B12 injectables, but I really thought that she did me a disservice because my blood pressure's been high. It's been all over the place, actually. And to wait so long to address it can be devastating. So anyway, I paid for the MRI myself. I got an MRI of my left elbow and my left hip. I've had ongoing issues with my elbow, so that was a given. I was going to do that anyway. And my hip, I can file an appeal for that once I get the results of the MRI showing what the problem is. Because I also talked to the insurance company about what they required that I would do before an MRI to get the approval of the MRI. And they said you would need to either see a chiropractor or physical therapy. And those determinations would give them the approval, or somehow or another that works that way. I don't know why. But anyway, and I told them there's no physical therapy in my area that is approved for my insurance. And they said if you don't have any in the area that is approved, you can find one that you like, and and your doctor can file a request for it and state on there that there's nothing within 50 miles, and they will approve it, or they might approve it. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. I've had this thing with my throat for a while. It doesn't seem to be going away, and I'm going to try to get that addressed as well. I think it has something to do with all these other things that are going on with various things that's been chronic, actually. So anyway, I'm doing all that, and I'm going to see my new doctor probably next week. I haven't set the appointment up yet because I'm waiting for the results of the MRI. Well, the whole point of that, though, is that with an injury to the hip, it can either be because I did a lot of walking and then I had a lot of pain. And I still have pain now 2.5 months later from the time it was injured. And so I Googled all the symptoms, and it could be something like a stress fracture, or it could be like a labral tear or something. And none of those things can be seen on an x-ray. And the only way to see them is an MRI. And if you have a stress fracture, it is treated very differently than the other soft tissue damage that might possibly be the problem. If you go into physical therapy and you treat for soft tissue on a hip, you can possibly cause a major fracture, and that would result in something like major surgery. And since I had a DEXA scan a few weeks ago, and it shows that I have osteoporosis, I definitely do not want to do any physical therapy that's going to cause me to have a broken hip, because then that means hip replacement. So anyway, all that aside, now let's talk about Europe. Now, the title says the good, bad, and the I don't know. And so I want to just go over those things a little bit, because I did go to Europe by myself, and I did go, I had originally planned to go with a friend, but she had to back out for health reasons. So I went over there by myself, traveled all around by myself, and I did 2 cruises. I did one cruise going over, one cruise while I was over there, to Greece, Turkey, and around, and then stayed in a couple of places longer term. And I think my favorite place that I stayed was Rome. Rome was beautiful. It was very busy, but they are well organized there. Most everybody speaks a little English, and lots of awesome things to see over there. And the place that I stayed was just magnificent. So my favorite place was Rome. There was a little restaurant nearby. Well, there were several restaurants nearby, but one that I really liked. And it also had a gelato shop, which is the first time I'd ever had gelato in my life. And I loved it. And a grocery store, and some shopping and a pharmacy, and all kinds of stuff nearby. So it was ideal. I loved it there. Then I went to Florence. I took the high-speed train to Florence, which was not expensive at all. And I stayed a little bit out from downtown area where all the sites were, which was probably a mistake, because I had to take several buses and stuff to get into town. And then I didn't want to stay in town too long because I just didn't want to be stuck in town having to spend a lot of money on various things that like meals and stuff like that. Because I frankly, when I travel, I buy my food and I make it myself. But the problem with the place in Florence was it was a tiny little apartment and the kitchen was really a joke. It had a 2-burner cooktop, a space about that wide between the stovetop and the sink. And there was no counter space at all to prep a meal or anything. And the refrigerator was one of those little tiny hotel types. And you couldn't put hardly anything in it. And there was no cooking utensils. There were pans, but there were no utensils, like no spatula, nothing like that. So they basically set it up for somebody who really wanted to just go out to eat all the time. There was a microwave, but a plate wouldn't even fit in this tiny microwave. The bed was okay. The balcony was huge, but I wasn't going to spend all my time on the balcony. The store was about a 15-minute walk because I did walk there once, but the other couple of times I took the bus. The bus is super cheap. I mean, the transportation over there, if you're taking a bus or a train, is super cheap. That is the one great thing about it. Now, when I was in Florence, I went into the grocery store to do some shopping, and I found these awesome pistachio croissants. And let me tell you, if I could eat only 2 things this whole trip, I would have eaten the gelato and the pistachio croissants. But of course, that's not good for you, so I didn't. But anyway, when I was in Florence, I had pizza, and it was awesome. I saw the David. I went to several sites to see, I guess you could say. But somewhere in there is whenever I hurt my hip because it started hurting pretty bad. Now, and then the other places I went to several places in Greece, one place in Turkey, and then I ended in Athens, where I stayed several days before I flew home. Now, I would say that the good of all these places was that the transportation was really inexpensive. The housing was dependent on what you were willing to pay for because it ranged. The really nice place in Rome I paid a lot for because I was right downtown. And then the Florence one was out of ways. It wasn't as expensive. And then the one in Athens was right in the middle of Athens, but it was fairly inexpensive. So I don't know. But the one in Athens was really nice too. I enjoyed that one. So the good part was like the transportation. Everybody spoke a little bit of English. It was easy to get around, and all that. And there was lots to see. And I could use my card everywhere I went. I didn't have to use cash for anything, anywhere. The good about taking the cruise ship over there is that I had 15 days to get ready. And on the cruise ship, they had good food, they had a little entertainment, and it was a good segue into being into an uncomfortable position or area with my vision issue, because I had thought that I might have issues with that, and if I did, I was going to turn around and come back home. The bad, can't really say there was anything really bad, except maybe some communication issues that I had, and that's my fault because I don't speak French, Spanish, Greek, whatever the people in Turkey speak. That's all on me. But there were lots of people that did speak English. I think there was one place that I went to that wasn't bad, it was really weird. I had to pay to go into this toilet in a park, and they had 2 stalls. The one stall was like a hole in the ground. I'm not kidding. It was a hole in the ground. Very weird looking. And then the other one was a regular toilet, so I waited to get into that one. And it was okay. It wasn't sparkling clean, but it was kind of weird to pay to go into a place that wasn't, a little bit nicer, I would say. So I really didn't have any bad experiences as far as the places that I went. Now, on the second cruise, I did have some concerning experiences. The first cabin they put me in, it was very noisy because I was right under the dining room, and which is surprising. You would think, well, you're under the dining room, that's not gonna be. But there was rolling carts and banging and slamming all hours of the day and night. So they finally moved me after, I think, 3 days, and I went to the other end of the ship where it was super quiet, except the doors slammed down there. And I tried my door and it did the same thing. So it wasn't just people being, angry and slamming doors. It was, you let the door go and it slams really hard. So I was conscious not to slam the door, but nobody else was doing that. And the other downside of being on that ship is they serve the same food all the time. And if you wanted anything extra or different, you had to pay for it. If I wanted pizza, I was going to have to pay for that. If I wanted gelato, I was going to have to pay for that. And they didn't have an open buffet all the time. You had to wait for certain hours of the day to get any food of any kind. You couldn't get any drinks any kind. They had little water dispensers here and there, but you couldn't get any hot water for tea or coffee. You couldn't get ice. There was some weird things about that. And the people on that ship did not speak good English at all. And the people that were customers on it didn't either. So I didn't have any conversations with anyone on that ship except the people at customer service, and it was very stilted, very, it was difficult, but I got through it. So I would say that would be the worst, was the communication thing. And the other worst thing was the flight back. It wasn't a bad flight as far as flights go. We did get diverted to Ireland, so I can say I went to Ireland. But the bad part about the flight is it because it was just really long. I really didn't want to have to fly back. I would have rather taken another cruise back, but I couldn't stay until October to do that. I did bring my butt cushion with me, so that helped a lot. But I just can't sit that long, so I did have to get up a lot. And by the time I was on the plane, my respiratory thing was getting bad. I wasn't constantly coughing like I did later after I got off the plane, because that was primarily at nighttime when I was doing a lot of coughing. So I was uncomfortable on the plane from all the sitting. That's, basically just it being a really long, long time. And my hip was hurting a lot by then. And so, that was something that I had to deal with. Now, on the trip after my hip started hurting a lot, I couldn't go out every single day and do all that walking. I was skipping days. So in Florence, I really didn't get out and see a whole lot because of that. When I got back on the second ship, I would do something one day, and then the next day I would take the day off because my hip would hurt so bad that at night I was in agony. And when I did go to land, my general place to hunt for was a pharmacy for some more ibuprofen or aspirin. And but I did enjoy several different places. I got off in Sicily. That was a wonderful place. I loved it there. And then I got off in Athens and several other little places. I don't remember them all, but I have them all written down. And then I got off the ship in Istanbul, Turkey. And I think that was the last place that I did so much walking. I walked and walked and walked. It was awesome. I got to go across this little bridge that connects, it was in the city of Istanbul. But people don't realize that Istanbul is split between Europe and Asia. One side is on the European continent, and the other side of the bridge, Istanbul, is on the Asian continent, which is really cool. And I didn't even know that until I went over there and I started looking into looking into what was there to see and where to go and all that. And they had these mosque things everywhere. They're beautiful. I did just a lot of walking around there. I didn't really do any sights as far as, touring anything except the park with the weird toilet in it. And I did have some some kind of dessert thing that was full of pistachios, because they are really big on pistachios over in that part of the world. Apparently, they're really prolific over there, or that's where they grow them. I don't know. I didn't look into that, but I did have that, and so I enjoyed it. But my hip hurt so badly that I didn't get off the ship again until we got back to Athens. Oh no, wait, I did. I got off in Mykonos. When we went to Mykonos, that was my birthday. So I knew I had to get off, but I was going to take a tour instead so that I wasn't doing a lot of walking. And so the tour went to a little beach area, and it toured around some other areas to see, and then it ended up at the waterfront area where all the tourists are. And I walked a lot there. It was really cool. I had some more pastries there, because I tell you what, I've never had such good pastries as they had in Greece. I mean, my God. It's called a bakery, but when you go in there, they have choices of the sweet stuff and the meat stuff, I call it, and savory, sweet and savory. So I would get we call it spanna capita, I think, and it's the first time I got one, it was about this big. I mean, big, and it was like a whole meal. It was the first one I got was just the pastry with the cheese in it, the cheese that they put in. I think it's ricotta, maybe some feta. I don't know. It's cheese. And then I got one in Mykonos as well. I got a few over all the places that I went to as far as Greece. And so I loved that. That was my main meal, actually. The last day when I was coming back, the taxi driver told me the best place to get it, and it was actually in a little stand thing outside the entrance to the airport, and it wasn't expensive. Now, all over Athens and Mykonos and those places, it was really cheap. If you went into like a small bakery or grocery store with a bakery, about $1.50, $2. But if you went to, like at the airport, they wanted $4.50 for it. I paid it. It was good. And then when I got into the airport and I was waiting, I went over to the little bakery in there just to see what they charged for it. And in there, it was $8.50. I mean, really, they charge way more in the airports just like we do. Anyway, so having said all that, I'm going to get to the weird, or the I don't know. Now, what kept me from wanting to stay longer was really mostly the communication thing. I never had a point where I couldn't get information, and I have never had a point where I couldn't communicate what I needed or what I was asking or anything like that. But I was mostly in all tourist areas. I mean, I did a lot of walking around the where the locals go, and but most of the people in those areas also knew tourists were there in that area. So most people spoke a little English, but they didn't speak English in a way that you could sit down and have a conversation. It was just like an exchange of information to get to where you're going, or find out where this is, or how much that is, or what the process is. So there was no deep communication. And I kind of miss that. I miss talking to people and just finding out, what's going on in your life. The taxi driver was probably, on the way back to the airport, was probably the deepest communication I had of any foreign speaking person. And it was difficult, because he talked a lot about, life there and all this stuff, because it was like a 30-minute ride or so. And most of it I understood. There was a lot that I didn't. And so that's the point I realized, that's what I'm missing. Because home, I knew coming home it was going to be hot. And I knew that, I'd be sitting here in my house, not being able to go outside because of the heat. And plus my hip was hurting. And I was going to have to deal with all the going to the doctor and all that BS. So for me, the weird, or the I don't know, or the, who knows what that means, was mostly about communication. The other weirds were, I signed up for a tour to get in to see the statue of David. And this site said, you get a tour, you get right in, blah, blah, blah. Well, what I found out was that, I'd already paid for it, so I couldn't do anything about it, was that when I got there, the person that does the tour runs over to the museum, which is right around the corner, gets the tickets, comes back and hands you tickets and say, there you go. So you got to get in line just like everybody else and wait just like everybody else, and you don't get anything special. So my advice to you is, if you're going to go over there and you want to see the statue of David, skip all that tour BS and just go get in the line. It doesn't take a long time to get in. There isn't a lot to really see in there. I mean, they have a lot of stuff to see, but it isn't like an immersive type experience that you're going to get extra if you pay for an extra tour. They have those little audio things, and they have signs on the walls and, that kind of thing. But I would just do it myself. And the other weird thing I would say was getting things to drink, which just, some of it was okay and some of it kind of pissed me off. And not because of what they were doing, but because of what we do here. I bought water several times in several little shops, and I never bought a bottle of water that was more than 50 cents. Yes, it was 50 cents for a bottle of water. Looked like the same water we have here in plastic bottles. Same thing. And then like the price of the Spanakopita and some other things that were just really cheap, Now, there were some things that were more expensive, like when I bought ibuprofen, you bought it by the number of pills. You didn't buy it in a bottle. It had to be in a packet thing, and you had to go to a pharmacy and ask the pharmacist. It wasn't on a shelf, that kind of thing, which was kind of weird. And then whenever I went to another pharmacy when I first got there to get some toiletries that I needed, I had to get someone to help me find them because, other than Googling it and trying to figure out what it was, I asked them to show me, like where the deodorant was, where the shampoo, that kind of thing. And I would say those are probably the only really weird things that I experienced. I can't think of anything else right off the top of my head. And I don't go by a script because of my vision. I can't read a script while I'm doing a video. I tried that once before and it just don't work. And plus it sounds, I don't know. I just don't like it. I like just whatever comes out of my head. Anyway, I'm sorry this was so long. I hope you enjoyed it. If I had it to do over again, I would probably fly over and just stay in one place for an extended period. I really liked staying in Athens. Maybe stay a little outside Athens. Maybe not. It wasn't that expensive to stay there. If I did go back for like the cruising part, I would take a cruise ship over and arrange it so that I could get a cruise ship back, or one or the other. Flying over probably would be easier, and then taking a cruise ship back, because the flying part is really difficult and you get jet lag, but you get jet lag when you're on a cruise ship going over too. So, I mean, that was the whole purpose in skipping the flight over, because I got jet lag. Anyway, because every day we moved time up an hour or two and there was no way to catch up. So, I don't know. It doesn't really make any difference, I don't think. But like I said, if I had it to do over again, I would do it a little differently. I think I would rather stay in one place a little longer. I would like to go back to Greece, to Athens particularly, or the area around Athens. There was some areas around Athens that I would have loved to gone to, but I didn't because of the pain I had in my hip, mainly. I could have even extended it if I wanted to, because my flight was refundable. Now, my sister stayed here while I was gone, and, I could have extended my time as long as I wanted. My sister stayed in my house while I was gone, and then after I got back, she stayed for another month and a half until she was able to, her and her husband got a place to live here since they were moving back. And just this week, her granddaughter has come to live with her. So the next project for us, since, it's family, is we're going to be trying to get her some furniture for her bedroom, since, this was unexpected. But that's just an example of things changing on a dime. You can make all kind of plans and it just poof, it changes. And I hope that maybe I can go back, but I don't know. It may or may not happen. My vision is getting a little bit worse, and that's concerning, but I have to deal with the hip thing and the vision thing, and that's about where I'm at now. I'm happy to be back, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it was so long, and I'll see you on the next one. It could be a day, it could be 2 months again.